Hi, I'm Todd Doherty, Member of Parliament for Caribou Prince George. We're here today at Astage Place Stadium in support of the Terry Fox Foundation, the Terry Fox Marathon of Hope. So I've been doing the walk for the full 40 years. I haven't missed a walk, going back to, I still remember where I was when we found out that Terry Fox had passed away. I was in a dressing room trying out for a sports team. Prince George was the start of Terry Fox's idea for the Marathon of Hope. As we speak here today, my father-in-law is at my house living with us in palliative care, and my wife is looking after him right now. And I lost my father, I lost my aunt, and my brother has battled cancer. It just touches so many people's lives. Whether we walk, whether we climb, whether we do the 24-hour relay, whether we ride bikes for Cops for Cancer, whatever we do, we have to beat this terrible disease. And I believe that, and it's the reason why I walk, ride, climb, cycle, support events like the Terry Fox Foundation, is because I believe there'll be a day where a cancer diagnosis isn't a death sentence. The 24-hour relay, which is unique to Prince George, we're the only community in the country that has a 24-hour relay still, and it really got its roots right here at Astage Place Stadium. So the field behind me, there would be tents and events for children and the families that came out in support of survivors and those that are battling cancer today and those that we've lost, in support of those that have been left behind. So this stadium is a very special place for us. It's obviously gone a massive facelift in the last couple of years. What a unique way to actually celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Terry Fox Marathon of Hope right here at Astage Place Stadium. Every weekend, every 24-hour weekend, relay weekend is dedicated to either a survivor or somebody that we've lost in the fight with cancer. So our stage would be positioned to the north end of the stadium. And at midnight, we would do the survivor's walk, and then we'd have somebody that would tell their story regarding their cancer battle or their loved one's fight with cancer. And while the story is going on, while the person is speaking, we would have volunteers in the stands, and we would have candlelit bike bags, luminaries, we still do to this day, lining the track. But in the stands, we'd have somebody organizing. So at the start of the speech, we would have hope lit up in the luminaries, and then by the end of it, our volunteers would change it to, or transform it to cure. It really just kind of draws you to why we're here. We don't do it to be on camera. We don't do it for photo ops. Our community, whether it's Prince George, whether it's Vanderhoof, Quesnel, Williams Lake, my riding is just made up of those champions, those community, heroes. Regardless of the issue, regardless of whether it was the 2017 wildfires or flooding or cancer or diabetes or ALS, we just have people that come out and care. My hope for our community, and I think we're seeing it during the COVID crisis, is that we just continue being kind. We need to take that time to love one another and just look after one another.
I'm Shirley Bond, and I'm the MLA for Prince George Valemount. Well, today is our day as a community to help keep Terry's dream alive, and there are not very many people who aren't inspired by the incredible journey that Terry Fox took. And, from my perspective, we have, as a family, have supported the walk for literally decades here in Prince George. So, again, this is an opportunity for our community to be part of that worldwide recognition of a true Canadian hero. I'm going to make every effort to do some laps today, and whether or not I do 40 laps or not, I'm not sure. It is the 40th anniversary, and I think one of the things all of us regret slightly is the fact that during a pandemic, we can't be together as a large group in our city. Normally, there's an enormous crowd of people with a starting horn and all of those things, so much energy and enthusiasm. So the theme for this year's walk is One Day, Your Way. And so across our city today, there will be people honoring Terry in different ways. We're choosing to do it here, but people all across the city, I hope, will participate and register and support Terry's dream. Well, I think ultimately, all of us recognize the need to deal with the issue of cancer research. That was Terry's dream. Very few of us have not been touched by someone close to us that has been impacted by cancer. So, I think there's a really practical reason to do it, But more than that, it's an amazing story of a young man who got up every day and basically ran a marathon. And for Prince George, there's a very special connection. Terry started here in Prince George the year before he began his marathon. So he actually tested it out here in our city. So from our perspective, we have a very unique and special relationship with Terry Fox. And I think that's why you see such incredible support for this event every year.
My name is Scott McWalter, and I had the privilege of being the lead organizer of the Prince George Terry Fox Run for 6 years. And my friend here is Jim Tyrion, one of the highest grossing fundraisers in history for the Terry Fox Foundation. Since 1991, Jim Tyrion, despite having a hearing disability, has had a goal of reaching $1 million in fundraising dollars for the Terry Fox Foundation. Here we are sitting in the year 2020, and Jim has officially surpassed $800,000 for the Terry Fox Foundation. It's incredibly special to witness Jim reach and surpass this milestone because it is the 40th anniversary of the Terry Fox Run in Prince George. And not only that, but in 1991, Jim Tyrion also walked across Canada, starting in St. John's, Newfoundland, all the way to our most western province here in British Columbia in the exact same Marathon of Hope route as Terry Fox. What's really exceptionally remarkable is the fact that Terry Fox came to Prince George in 1979, 1 year before the Marathon of Hope, and he competed in a race. It was called the Prince George to Boston Marathon, the largest organized running event in the province at the time. And when Terry Fox came and competed in that race, it gave him the confidence and the motivation to actually commence the Marathon of Hope the following year. So Prince George and Terry Fox, there's a lot of weaved in history there together, and that's part of the reason why individuals like Jim have been so motivated to carry on that tradition, not just in Prince George, but throughout the nation.
My name is Doug Jones. I have a 16-year-old son, Jameson Jones. He's a cancer survivor. He was diagnosed when he was 5. Well, we were just getting ready to prepare for his 5th birthday when we got the diagnosis. That was on a Sunday, and he was flown down to BC Children's Hospital on a Monday. They resected a tumor in his brain on Tuesday, and we ended up celebrating his 5th birthday in the hospital. He relapsed 2 years later, and we went back down, and he had extensive chemo and radiation, and he's been on different medications to recover from the treatment more than the cancer since then. It's been kind of rough. It was rough on his sisters because he was taken away from them for months and months at a time. They didn't know how he was doing on a daily basis. So it was really, really rough. But we ended up getting the family to come down and come and visit him. So they did get some insight as to what he was going through. And he's been doing fantastic ever since. I think everybody in Prince George is pretty proud of the connection with Terry Fox, as he practiced here back when it was called the Prince George to Boston Marathon. And he came up with his prosthetic leg to practice here. And then I guess he did so well that he thought, you know what, I can do this. And he took off here. So we're really kind of proud, and we like to brag about how Terry Fox, started his journey here in Prince George.
So my name is Amy Cassie, and I'm the Supporter Engagement Manager for the Canadian Cancer Society. My job involves planning the Relay for Life and working with our committee in Prince George. And then recently it's evolved into planning Cops for Cancer Tour de North, which is a cycle between, it changes routes every year, but through northern BC, as well as independent fundraising events throughout northern BC. So we definitely see a lot of crossover. Participants that we see with Relay for Life are also generally participants with the Terry Fox Run. It's a really solid, strong group of supporters that we've got right throughout Prince George. There is a core group of people that really get behind planning events such as the Terry Fox Run, as well as Relay for Life and Cops for Cancer. And you'll see those group of volunteers through different events, as well the participants. We see a lot of the teams that we see at Relay for Life also participating in Terry Fox because that cancer cause is so important to them. And it's just through different times of the year they get behind different causes, which is really incredible. And the community support that all the events receive is really remarkable. For a smaller community, Prince George really comes through every year. So my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer when she was 54, and she had colon cancer for a couple of years and unfortunately passed away at 56 after a brief battle. And I was just so moved by the amount of support that we got throughout her whole cancer journey. And then most recently, my niece was diagnosed at 8 years old, a neuroblastoma cancer. So she's had quite a battle ahead of her. So, it's a cause that's very important to us. The people that have been affected, nearly 1 in 2 Canadians are going to be affected by cancer in their lifetime. That's just too great of a stat. We really have to do something to fight the disease. And I even look at, with my mom's cancer, the treatments that have come out since she passed. There's 2 new chemotherapy treatments on the market for her type of cancer. And that is really a testament to research and the funds that are raised to fight cancer. As well, my niece, she is doing clinical trials and really at the forefront of making sure that no other child has to go through cancer. So it really is a cause that's close to my heart.
The connection between Terry Fox and the community of Prince George is very, very strong. And it runs back to the year 1979. Terry Fox, along with one of his best friends and his brother, came up to Prince George because it was the largest race in the province at the time. And it's called the Prince George to Boston Marathon. And Terry Fox really wanted to participate to see if he was ready to take on something bigger. So not only did he participate, but he also had a massive fanfare. When people saw this young gentleman participating in this event, it gave them so much hope and it allowed Terry Fox to not only complete the event, but gain the confidence that he required to start the Marathon of Hope the following year in 1980. Here we are, September 20th, 2020, and almost 40 years to the date when the Marathon of Hope commenced. And today I joined several difference makers in the community to pay tribute to Terry Fox and walk laps at Massage Place. And afterwards, I felt so inspired that I went and ran the original 1979 Prince George to Boston route that Terry Fox did himself, that same route that gave Terry Fox the confidence and the motivation to commence the Marathon of Hope the next year. A strong part of the motivation for getting out there and doing that same route that Terry Fox did in 1979 is because I've seen the way that Terry Fox and his courageous Marathon of Hope has positively influenced so many individuals in this country and nation, and I am no different. I look at what Terry Fox was able to accomplish and really bring this nation together, and that courage and that hope that he provided everyday citizens still runs deep in our community, our province, and across the nation. Now that the Terry Fox Run has reached its 40th anniversary, I hope that the next 40 years really help future generations recognize the value that Terry Fox's courage had and the fact that anything is possible if you try, which are famous words by Terry Fox that he said himself in 1980 during the Marathon of Hope.
Hi, my name is Stacy Miller. I'm a radiation oncologist and the Executive Medical Director at BC Cancer Centre for the North here in Prince George. So this centre was built for the patients of the North in 2012. We opened. It was a collaboration between Northern Health and BC Cancer and many other community partners who helped make this building what it is. I had the opportunity to move here to Prince George in 2012 to join the community at that time. Prior to the Centre for the North opening, our patients had to travel for their treatment down to Vancouver or to Kelowna or to another centre that took them further away from their families and just increased the logistics around cancer treatment. We know since we opened that many people just chose not to travel for treatment. There are about a third of our patients in the North who live in the Prince George area and 2/3 who don't. So the travel factor remains a challenge, and that's one of the things that is a priority for us to support our patients who come from outside of Prince George because we don't want geography to be a barrier to care. Here at BC Cancer Prince George, we offer cancer treatment, including radiation treatment and chemotherapy, other systemic treatments, as well as multidisciplinary team care. with nursing care, nutrition, speech-language pathology, patient-family counseling, and pharmacy, it's important to recognize the importance of the multidisciplinary team when caring for any patient with cancer. So here at BC Cancer, I do treat patients with cancer. I'm a radiation oncologist. My passion is for treatment of patients who have genitourinary malignancies, sarcoma, lymphoma, palliative care. We do provide a full range of treatment here. The other hat I wear is in leading the center with my dyad partner, Kathy Genie, who's our executive director. And as a pair, we manage and lead the center here. As a leadership team, we determine what are the most important needs we have in our building. At the moment, we have two priorities for our fundraising dollars. One is for what we call the Comfort Fund. The Comfort Fund is a really important source of support for our patients, in particular patients who need to travel for support or who may have another barrier that impacts their ability to have care. It's really important to us that patients not choose to avoid cancer treatment because they're not able to afford it or to logistically not be able to manage it. So that could be anything from a gas card in order to drive to the center, or perhaps assisting with accommodation, or perhaps assisting with something logistic like a phone so that patients can receive their appointments. It can really take any manner of support, but the purpose of it is to increase the ability of patients with cancer to get the treatment that they need where they need it. So the second priority that we have for fundraising is for the precision radiotherapy program. Precision radiotherapy is very high dose radiation to small spots where we're hoping to be able to eradicate tumors that have spread from where they first started. This is a research project that is impacting British Columbia and nationally, and in fact has now gathered international interest. It's led by our research lead, Dr. Rob Olson, and our hope is to study this and to improve it so that we can provide this care for patients throughout Canada and BC. On a personal note, I really want to appreciate everyone who's been a donor to BC Cancer, and I can personally share with you that it has made an impact for our patients. I have many patients of my own who live in towns that are a long way away from Prince George who would not have been able to get their treatment if not for the assistance of the Comfort Fund. I also see really exciting development in the precision radiotherapy program when we have interest from international partners to join our work, and that is because of the donors that have contributed to our center.
So I'm Christine, I'm Bren's mom.
I'm Bren. I'm Sam.
And I'm Scott.
I had leukemia, which is cancer of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 5, and I went to treatment at BC Children's Hospital. It was kind of just life for me, so it didn't affect me much. It probably affected my family more than it did me. I just went with the flow.
Well, it was difficult, obviously. So Bren was diagnosed in 2010. So we found out she'd been sick on and off for a couple months. And when we finally got the diagnosis, we were flown to Vancouver very quickly. And then we spent 7.5 months in Vancouver, where she underwent intensive chemotherapy. We stayed at Ronald McDonald House, and when we came back to Prince George, she did another 20 months of maintenance therapy, so traveling to and from Vancouver monthly sometimes.
I mean, at the beginning, Bren was in the hospital for the first few weeks. That kind of made us all kind of live apart. We went down to Vancouver so quickly that we didn't have a place to stay. We ended up staying at Ronald McDonald House. You know, everything that's still in Prince George when we left was still there, and finding a way to cover all of that as well as find a place to live down there was really stressful. And then on top of that, of course, your child has cancer, and that's obviously very stressful too.
Bren still has some long-term side effects that affect her Achilles tendon, so she has something called neuropathy of the heel cords, but she perseveres through that by running. She's very, very active.
Yeah, I run quite a bit. I run track and field and cross country. I like running like 5Ks, but then I enjoy it longer as well, so like 10 to like 18. I plan on being a pediatric oncologist once I get out of high school. I want to work at BC Children's Hospital, so the same hospital that I went to treatment at, just so I can like give back and I guess help other kids like me.
So we did the Terry Fox run as a family. So Bren was in the stroller. Samantha wasn't born yet. So we've done that. We've done the Terry Fox run almost every single year.
Well, Terry Fox Run is something that's, Like, you know, it's world recognized. It's raised a ton of money for cancer research over the years. You know, Terry Fox is a British Columbian boy, and it's something to be proud of, and it's something that's easily recognized by the community that gets people motivated to help in even small ways, you know. So
I think it's really important that he did it, and I think it's really important that we continue on his legacy, because he raised a lot of money for cancer research, and even now I guess he still raises it through all the different foundations and all the runs that he does. And I think that it's important that the schools do it still and teach the kids about it, because it's a really big part of Canada's history.